Right, we're looks like we're live. All right, and I'm gonna go live over here on Instagram as well. And yeah, we're gonna kick things off here. All right, welcome everybody. Hey, Rise in the chat already. Glad to see you. Um, all right, so this is a workshop stream. Haven't done one in a little while. It's been at least a month, maybe more. Um, And yeah, first stream after winning the first in-person stream after winning the Grind Grand Championship, and we're gonna have to touch on that because I'm doing some very cool toy making stuff today. The first thing I want to do, I'm gonna go ahead and bring my trusty DIY action figure rack here because I have a bunch of figure parts that I primed yesterday, so they'd be ready for today. And got to get them out onto our surface here. They're going to go back on the rack at different points during the stream here because they're going to need to dry. But you know, we're just getting started here, just kicking into gear. All right, get the old rack out of the way here. And what we're doing today, all right, Nicka Beans and Bobby Gilbert all in the champ. Glad to see everybody. What we're doing today is we are going to be painting, making sure they can see it on the Twitch stream. We're going to be painting up some of the new Perry Von Vicious figures. I'm really thrilled with the improved sculpt on these. I put some time in. You know, one of the things that was particularly interesting about this process is that I hadn't done any organic sculpting in some time. It had been a number of months since I'd really touched Blender, which is the software that I use for that. And I wasn't really sure. You know, I always feel like I need to improve a lot on the work that I do, and so I wasn't too sure how it would go after a little while of not having done any of it. And I'm really pleased with how this has turned out. And I'm going to show some of the big differences here between this and the previous sculpt. You know, there's a lot for me to talk about here because I have a lot of different pieces I'm working on. But just to kick things into gear, we're going to start off doing some painting. Like, there's no reason to hesitate. We can talk and chitter chatter about some of the different work I've done here when stuff's drying, when we're in between our little bits here. So you know, the thing that's going to take the most colors is probably going to be the torso. There's going to be white and black for the eyes. Well, actually, maybe it's only 3 colors: white and black for the eyes, and then I have sort of a yellow for the beard and hair. And then, of course, there's going to be a flesh tone going on all the skin. I kind of think we need to lay that flesh tone down first. I think that might be the first thing we have to do there. And as long as we're going to have the flesh out, we might as well hit the flesh color on everything, arms and legs and everything. We'll start there for now. That way each piece can, hey, Anton Voorhees in the chat over on Twitch. Hey, awesome. Glad to see you, buddy. You had a big weekend out in Vegas. Congratulations, some big shows. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and start laying down sort of a flesh tone on these because I'm trying to go like light colors to dark colors. It's really hard to cover a dark color with a light color, but it can be very easy to go the other way. So those who've been here for one of these before know I run cheap. This is a large container of paper cups from Dollar Tree. Something like 30 or 40 of them for $1.25, and then literally just water. And then I use these cheapo acrylics that you can get at you can get them at Walmart, Target. You can get them out at Dollar Tree sometimes, all kinds of places. Anton Voorhees says, thank you. You've also been killing it. I've been trying, man. You know what? As long as you mention it, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna break it out. Those who are at the stream all the time know I keep it nearby. I do have the grind grand championship right near me, and it's for an important reason. I'm going to show it to the Instagram stream. Important reason that I have it nearby is because if you were on the stream last week, you saw that I was doing some designing of a Pro Wrestling Grind Championship belt that would be scaled to these figures. And I do have some of the results of that. It's not a finished product yet because it's going to take some iterating to get just right. The material I'm working with is a little bit tricky. The color options are a little tricky. But I do have two that I'm happy to show off here. The first was my test that I did in black filament. That came out looking really good. Like, I'm so happy with that. The buckle works well. And it is, I mean, if I put it with the waist, it's to scale with my figure. Those watching on Instagram, little championship belt. But the grind belt is green. So I did do a oh, it's not, oh, you know what, I got the green screen filter on the Twitch here. Hang on, please hold, everybody. We're gonna fix that right away. I didn't realize because I wasn't really wearing any green. All right, there we go. Yeah, got the grind belt here on a green as well, and that's looking pretty good. It looks good on Instagram too. And yeah, it is absolutely to scale with my figure. So this is going to be the Grind Grand Championship Edition Perry Von Vicious figure. Joey Nails has rolled in. Nickabine says it's so tiny, I love it so much. Bobby and Nikki got ads over on Twitch. All I need to do is wrestle for EWA, and I've worked for every promoter in Maine. Joey Nails, technically the promoter of EWA is from Massachusetts, but he does run in Maine. That's true. EWA is one of the places that I worked the most when I was brand new. EWA and NCW, that was in Eastern Mass. But that was during the brief period where EWA ran mostly in Massachusetts, and in fact in Western Mass. So it was a very short drive. It was kind of my home promotion when I very first started. All right, but we got to get to work on these guys. So I have a couple different colors here that purport to be sort of a fleshy tone. There's a peach and there's a sun-kissed peach. I'm going to go with the sun-kissed peach and see kind of what that does. We can always add other colors in with it, mix them up as needed to try to get it just right. Rye gifted a sub to Nickabeans. Thank you for gifting a sub, Rye. Really appreciate it. Shake. I always got to shake these paints up. If you've never worked with these sort of the cheapo acrylics, it's not like they're terribly finicky, but they are, you know, you get what you pay for. They often take multiple coats. Hey, gifted a sub to Bobby Gilbert as well. Thank you, Rye. I really appreciate it. You do get what you pay for. They often take multiple coats, and they can be a little bit temperamental with brush strokes and those kinds of things. I don't really fret over that because, you know, I have the time. I have the time, and I like doing that work. Hey, Mr. Man, welcome, my friend. We're painting up some of the brand new Perry Von Vicious action figures with the new improved Perry sculpt, and also a different leg design than I had previously used. You know, I wanted this to be a different figure than the first one that I ran. For those who've never seen the first one, this is one that's kind of got a botched paint job. But it had the sort of crooked legs that make him stand kind of sideways. The head sculpt kind of stopped short, so the hair had to be short. Everything was kind of splotchy. There was definitely a learning curve going on. And when you compare the two sculpts, the new one is so much better. The hair is definitely more me, the way it goes down over the shoulders. Very pleased with that. And the leg sculpt is much more upright. It doesn't tilt the way the old ones did. So this guy will have a much more Perry-like stance. He'll also be a little bit taller because of the leg design. My prototype shots as this was evolving. You can see this is one with an early version of the grind belt. So yeah, got some cool stuff coming. There's another figure that I'm running prints of right now that is actually the Delmy Exo figure. It is finished. It is complete. We are in production now. I will have Delmy's figures, her first run, delivered to her probably later this week, maybe by this weekend. And she's doing the painting herself. It's something she and I talked about it that I could paint it for her, but we both agreed that kind of one of the biggest selling points with these little indie toys is that the wrestlers paint them themselves. It's kind of a draw, you know, the idea that we sat there and we chose the colors, we did the brush strokes, we worked with the material. There's something kind of cool about that. All right, this is a brand new thing of this sort of fleshy paint here, and the newer the paint, the kind of rougher it behaves. I am breaking out some new brushes. Again, I can't stress, for this kind of work, I don't spend a lot. I went to Dollar Tree. Each of these packs was $1.25. That's a lot of brushes for that money, and there's a lot of different kinds: fine points, short bristle, long bristle. So I get a lot of variation in these. And I think I'm gonna go with yeah. There's a few of these I want to work with, so I'm gonna crack them all open now and let them just roll around the desk while I debate which one I want to use. Some Dollar Tree paintbrush unboxing ASMR for everybody. Enjoy. Yeah, I'm very pleased that the Delmy figure is done. Delmy will be the first to tell you she'd been waiting on that design from me for quite some time, and finally got there. So very happy to have that finished. But yeah, I'm gonna be happy to have these figures out on the merch table, especially with the little grind belt to go with it. That's right, Joey Nails got his first singles win this weekend. He's also getting all kinds of press because he's in AG's Instagram. I saw AG was watching my story a minute ago. I don't know if he's still on there, but AG out running some seminars, sharing some wisdom with the kids. Dollar Tree packages like to play pranks on you. They're not always easy to open. Oh, AG is there. He's watching. Hey, buddy, how are you? I hope you appreciate the new and improved Perry sculpt. I'm very pleased with how that came out. Took a lot of work, but I'm getting much better. Gone are the days where you glance at my figures and say, "Hey, is that just a repainted? What was it? A hacksaw that I used as sort of the base for the rip design." AG's an avid collector. He picked those out right away. He knew. My figures did start with sort of a different design, and then they've gotten better. You know, I've really learned how to customize and make them special. Thanks, AG. He says figure looks awesome. I appreciate it, bud. All right, but we're gonna hop in now. We're gonna start laying down. I'm gonna start on the legs, I think, because sort of the easiest patches to hit. We're gonna start laying down our flesh tone. I got this great big pile of brushes, and I just want to pick one that I think will behave the way I want it to. That one looks good to me. Can always change it later. But again, just Dollar Tree paint, you know, nothing fancy. I'm gonna get the brush in there and get it well mixed. Also gonna go ahead and get a paper towel at the ready here, because once the mess starts, you don't get it to stop that easy. I think Joey Nails is watching me on both Twitch and Instagram. He's getting the full experience, both views. All right, there we go. All right. So right now, I just want to see what kind of coverage we get here. Okay, yeah, it's definitely going to take a few coats. And the dark color on this is primer that I laid down yesterday. Doing a coat of primer is preferable on these kinds of prints and these kinds of toys. As a rule, most plastics, not all, some are designed specifically for this kind of stuff, but most plastics, paint doesn't really want to stick to it. There's a saying, paint doesn't like to stick to plastic, but paint loves to stick to paint. So if you hit it with a primer, which is designed for coverage and to stick and to have a finish, especially a matte primer like this gives you a very textured finish. That's why it doesn't shimmer as much. If you use that, the paint will stick a lot better. And while this will definitely take 2 coats, it's actually going a lot better than I'd assumed it would. Like, this is not terrible coverage on a first coat. It's not great, but it's not terrible. Nika Beans is also on both streams. Dedicated fans, what can I say? Yeah, I like this sort of wider. For those who've watched me work, I usually use a pretty narrow brush for most of my painting. I'm liking this wider one. It's getting me a lot of coverage on a first pass, but it does make me a little weary when I get up to the edges of where I want that paint to be. All right, one side. There is a little strip in between these where there could be some flesh showing, but I tend to wear pretty tall socks, so I may just do that part in white. I don't know. If you're hearing the whir of my printers running in the background, that is one of my 2 FDM printers. I have 2 FDM printers. Those are filament printers, sort of what you think of as the classic 3D printer when you picture it. And then I also have resin printers that are running. I'm running more Perry figures and some Delmy figures as well. And the filament printer, though, is running a little bit of a secret project. I posted the idea behind it on Blue Sky the other day and got a pretty favorable response. And it's something I've had in my head for a while that, these figures are cool and they definitely catch the eye of people. Definitely catch the eye of people when they're passing the merch table, but they don't catch it enough. And I could put up a big sign with a picture of one of these figures, but yeah, even that, there's a lot of signs around places. Instead, what I want is a giant version of this figure to put on the table, and that's what I'm printing. I am printing a filament version of this figure that's going to be 250x this size, so 2.5 times this size. These figures stand just a little over 5 inches tall, and yeah, I think AG and Nickamines are right. I probably could just go from here down all black, and it would look just fine. Yeah, I don't know if I'll bother with the in-between. It is kind of visible on the model, so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what I'm feeling. But yeah, I'm printing a 2.5 times size version of this. So this stands about 5 inches tall. The one I'm printing is going to be, I was looking at the actual size when all is said and done. It's going to be a little bit over 13 inches. So that's going to be pretty cool. I'm going to be happy to see that on the merch table. Nickabean says, "Yeah, work smarter, not harder." Yeah, I think you might be onto something there. All right, I'm going to set that one aside. The nice part about the pieces that can just stand is they can just dry out of the way on the table here. Yeah. I see Rye also just joined on the Instagram as well. So lots of repeat viewers. I appreciate it, guys. So one thing I'm always careful about here is I don't need to go heavy on a first coat. When I know it's going to take 2 coats to get the coverage I want, I can go real light, and that saves me from having a lot of ugly brush strokes that show through when the paint dries. I'm also tend to be a fairly impatient guy when it comes to these things. So once I've got these sort of painted up to where I want them, where I'm ready to do a second pass, I'm probably going to use my heat gun on a low setting in place of a hairdryer and just dry them on the spot so that I'm not waiting. I find watching paint dry probably doesn't make for a very entertaining live stream. One nice thing right now is I am being very careful around the edges, but I probably don't need to be, because the other colors I wear, the other colors I'm going to have to paint on here are going to be pretty dark, and they will cover over the flesh color relatively easily. So if I get a little bit of paint on one of the knee pads or something, it's not going to matter. When I paint the knee pad black, it's all just going to go away. I see Cody C. Brooks is also on the Instagram live as well. Oh, okay. Nicobene says do paint the socks different color. Yeah, I mean, doing one white stripe in between there is not going to be that difficult. It is a very small area, but it shouldn't be that hard. Really, what I ought to do is just in real life start wearing black socks, because then I could paint that whole little section black. I know there was a lot going on the Twitch chat there that I missed. So I hope everyone's having a good conversation over there. I know we were talking about Joey Nails having his first singles win. Pretty exciting. Joey Nails, who I'll see this weekend when I'm hanging out up at Limitless Wrestling. Always happy to get up there. I'll see AG as well. All right. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about this first pass here. I am thinking I may need to invest in some white primer. A little bit of a lighter color, a little easier to get coverage with these bright flesh tones and stuff. But, you know, the worst things have happened. I use the gray because it makes details on the model easier to see in photos. So when I was taking some pictures of the progress on this, priming it in gray just made a lot more sense. All right. And we're going to call that a first pass on the legs. I'm going to let those stand off to the side and start drying, but we got so much more flesh color to cover because I don't wear a ton of clothes when I wrestle. So yeah, lots of area to cover. Hey, Mr. Man says I could just get really pale. Yeah, that's true. I could just paint all the figures white. It would be fine. Let's see. Randy said, "Oh, I'm catching up on the Twitch chat here." Joey Nails says, "Randy said I have to do an LJN because of little Joey Nails." I've heard worse ideas. I've heard worse reasoning too. That's pretty good. That's sound logic. All right, so I'm going to start tackling the hands, which means I do want to keep this drying rack a little bit closer so that I can hang these up as we go. All right. I'm going to stick with this same brush and just see how we get on. It's possible I may need to switch to something with a finer tip, but we might be okay. Now, previously, when I had made figures, folks who'd been to some of my figure painting streams with the last set, which would have been, gosh, like a year ago, I had used some flesh colored resin to print the figures, which worked well. But the actual resin itself, I found, was not terribly durable and not terribly reliable. Sometimes figures would come out of those prints a little warped. If you dropped a piece, it was liable to break, and sometimes just putting the joints together would snap, which was a big problem. Um, but shout out to Todd from Proving Ground over there. He does a lot of figure making and 3D printing with resin, and he had some different resins that he recommended for me. And I tried a few of them, and we were kind of circling it with ones that I liked. And eventually, what I settled on was a mix. I have this ABS-like resin that behaves like an ABS plastic. It's a brand and a company I really like from Sunlu, um, and they they make one that's clear. It's a transparent, and that's what I started with. But I had some printing difficulties with it that I discovered were because it was transparent. But I really liked the way it behaved. So I started doing a mix of about 50% the transparent ABS-like resin and 50% gray transparent or ABS-like resin. And that really did the trick. It's super durable, looks really nice, prints really reliably, and all the joints come out really crisp. It's probably the best or the happiest I've ever been with how my 3D prints have turned out. All right, I think we can call that round one on the arm. And you can sort of see, if I come up close on the camera here, that the coverage is not perfect. And that's all part and parcel to using these sort of cheaper paints. But the next round, that's going to get much more covered. But yeah, we're starting to get there. All right. And this is where I got to start hanging these up on my little makeshift drying rack. Just going to hold it by the tape while I do that. There we go. And again, I may end up hitting those with the heat gun. Just dry the paint more quickly. I see everyone in the chat on stream is talking about Mania. I did see Punk's entrance with living color. Yeah, that was awesome. Very cool. Someday I'm gonna get less than Jake to play me to the ring. It seems unlikely, but not impossible. All right. Got one stray hair coming off this brush. Gonna drive me crazy. There we go. All right, we're back in business. There's a few of them. All right, there we go. That's better. Yeah, I'm very excited to see this come together when it's done. I'm, doing sort of a limited run. I'm going to kind of work them through as they sell, that sort of thing. But I am making a couple of extras. I need one for my collection, sort of, just for the archives. And I'm making one for my mom because she's never actually had one of my figures. Well, she has one. She has the little Keshi style, Kanikuman style one that I made years ago. That's just one solid color. It's not painted. That was just how I sold them. And she has complained, wondering why she doesn't have one of my figures. So I gotta get one to her. Yeah, the difficulty with these arms and hands is once you've sort of painted all of them, there's very little space to hold them from. I'm actually gonna I have a tool for that, but of course I don't have it at the ready. So I may grab that in just a second here. There we go. Let's see. I think it's right over here. I'm knocking Instagram all around. All right, let's see here. Yeah, there it is. That's what I'm after. Actually, that's not the one I want. I have a few of these. I have some. I can show you what they are on screen here. I have some dental clamps that clamp shut, but I don't want these pointy ones. That's a good way to damage the figure. I have ones that have a sort of a flat end to them, but I don't see them around. Huh. Huh. Well, what can you do? Bobby Gilbert says giveaway, giveaway, giveaway. Are you doing Red Hot Chili Peppers lyrics or dental plan? Lisa needs braces. Yeah, I can probably work with these anyway. I'm not gonna fret about it. I'll just clamp onto a part that I feel okay clamping onto. Yeah, there we go. That's kind of all that's going to take. There. And now I should be able to work on this without too much issue. Now this is one where I may actually need to go to a finer brush. I think I will, yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this one in my water here. And look in our pile of brushes and see what we have to pick from. I want something with a fairly short bristles and a fairly fine point. I have a few options here. That's a maybe. Yeah, that's a maybe. Yeah, I think one of those two is going to be the one. That one needs to sit in some water for a bit. I'm going to do this one. Oh, good. Oh, good. Thank goodness. Someone's telling me where the cheap viewers are. I had no idea. You kidding? I have the cheapest viewers possible. Didn't pay a penny for them. It's the only way to fly. All right. Let's start in this sort of middle section here. Is this not holding as tight as I'd like? Yeah, of course it's not. There. That'll do. Oh yeah, that's going to be much faster to get by the tight edges. Tapped out of WrestleMania after the first match. Too much advertising, too much. Yeah, well, yeah. Now, is that night 1 or night 2, hey, Mr. Man? That's the real question. Did you tap out after one match of night 1 or one match of night 2? You can't go wrong there, Rye. I will say the women's triple threat that opened night 2 was really good. Probably my favorite match of the whole weekend. But I also realized that I'm like the wrong audience to get a read on if it was a good Mania or not, because I really don't keep up on the product. Like, I don't know who anybody is. Like, this Mania, I knew who most people were, but some of the women I was unfamiliar with. Yeah, there was a few times where I was kind of like, who is this? Yeah, boy, when you come to the shows, when you see the price of these on the merch table, just watch these videos back and know how much work I put into painting these, especially since each of these is going to take 2 coats just for the flesh color. This is where if I spent more money on more expensive paints, it would really only take the 1 coat. But what can you do? I have my materials that I'm comfortable with, and that's what I run with. Hi, Elmira Marks. Yeah, Dark Sheik rules. Dark Sheik's someone I knew from the Bay Area from way back. She's great. Somewhere buried deep in the depths of my YouTube is a match between me and Dark Sheik, but it was a different time for Dark Sheik. She had not started transitioning yet, so I don't share it out like I share out some old matches with other folks, because it doesn't really feel appropriate. I've never asked her if that's an issue or not. I just assume and leave it be. Truth be told, it wasn't either of our best match. We at the time, our chemistry was only so-so. I'd only been back from a pretty long trip overseas for like a couple days when she and I wrestled, and we were wrestling in SoCal, which meant not only had I only been back in America for a few days, and I was incredibly jet lagged, but we both had to drive 7 hours to go to the show we were on. So, yeah, not ideal for having a great match per se, but it was one of my favorite places to work. Not because it was a great company, because it wasn't. Not because they drew great houses, because they didn't. And not because they paid terribly well. but because the promoter's kid's sister worked at Disneyland, so part of my pay every time I went down was that the next day she would use her free employee guest swipes to get me and a bunch of the boys into the park. And we'd get to go to Disneyland for the day. Pretty great. Rye says, love to see her on the East Coast more. Yeah, of course. I believe she came out and did a one of the T2T secret shows at one point. Yeah, you can, if you're enjoying this stream, quiet as it's been, I've been a little less talkative than normal, mostly because I'm trying to focus up and look at what I'm doing. There's going to be a lot more of these coming because I got a bunch of these figures I'm going to paint. I think my initial run is going to be pretty small of these. One of the nice things about printing your own figures, there is no minimum order. I could do 1, I could do 100. But I believe my initial run here is going to be like 7 or 8. And one of them I don't have to paint. Looking at you, Nickabeans. I know you wanted an unpainted one. Yeah, then at least 2 of them are just for personal collections, so they're not going to be on sale. So I believe I'll only have 5 or 6 on sale to start with. All right, that's another arm. It's already popping pretty good. The coverage isn't perfect, and from a ways away you can't really tell that, but up close you can definitely see the primer streaks. But you know, got to start somewhere. All right, I can hold him by the elbow pad. I'm going to hang this up to dry. And start on the next one. Joey Nail says, what color will the trunks be? The trunks are going to be my newest trunks, the Carolina Crusher red and white. So they're going to be half red, half white, sort of a diagonal where one half is white, one half is red, with the Perry and the little explosion, the cartoon explosion on the back. So that's going to take some doing. Like that's fancy painting. I may have to special order little bitty brushes for that, or I may cheat and use the old Gundam markers. Got those in Japan, and they are a delight to work with. They're incredibly easy. So that may be how I do the actual logo. Nickabeans, I can't wait to see what you end up doing with these as well. I honestly, the giant one I'm printing, I kind of want to give you measurements and see if you can make my ring jacket for him, because that one's going to be really big. All right, there we go. Yeah, that's holding in place good. These little dental clamps are incredibly useful, and I have a better one somewhere, but alas, I couldn't tell you where. My workshop's been in utter chaos and disarray for some time here, and I'm just now getting it back to where it needs to be to function properly. And I've been real happy with the progress I've been making. As summer rolls on here, I have some changes I'm going to be doing down here, some builds that need to happen to the workshop. The electrical needs to be redone. Gotta build a small wall that is going to run. One small wall is all it will take to separate my gym from my workshop from my green screen studio. And that's going to make dehumidifying this area, which is important for printer filaments, and temperature controlling, which is important for everything I do. Working out, printing, painting, all of that, much easier. And separating those is going to make it easier to ventilate this room. Right now I've got a very convoluted system set up that ventilates, so when I'm printing I'm not just breathing plastic fumes, and I'm not just breathing paint fumes if I have to spray something. So yeah, it's going to be a safer and nicer environment very soon. And I do hope you like these little projects, because I've got a bunch coming up. Not just painting my figures or figures that'll be for sale, but I have the files for a number of the old Hasbro toys that I would like to have in my collection, but I don't need them to be real. It's not the kind of collector I am. I don't mind my toy being a replica, and if it can be one that I make myself, all the more fun for me. So I'm going to be working on some YouTube videos where I'm going to be printing and painting replicas of the natural disasters and Bam Bam Bigelow, as well as a few others. And if that ends up being a popular series, if people end up really liking that, I may stretch it a little further. I do have some Ninja Turtle figures that I'm going to be making from replica files. I need a foot soldier. Never got a foot soldier. Need there's a big project that I have planned. I want to do Krang's android body. That one's going to be tough. Let's see. Oh, I'm just catching up on Joey Nails talking about doing his own 3D printing. How he needs to do some troubleshooting. Might pay Perry to come to my house and help me out. I'll get you my hourly rate, brother. Yeah, he got the Elegoo Mars 4. I'm running an Elegoo Mars, I think, 2. So yeah, yours is actually a little bit nicer than mine. However, I do have a Elegoo Saturn S, which is really nice, much bigger, prints in 8K resolution. So, not that it's a noticeable difference in print quality between the two printers. It's really not. I mean, at least not to my old eyes. But I sort of feel the same way about people with like their 4K TVs and stuff. Like, I don't know. It all looks fine. I'm not precious about that stuff. Like, I can totally see a difference between 1080p and 4K. It doesn't always matter to me. All right, we're getting there. Getting there on this arm. And like I said, there's going to be some spillover where I have some of the fleshy color getting onto like some of the wrist tape. That's okay. I wear black wrist tape. The black's going to color it up real easy. Bobby Gilbert says, would you make a Chigusa figure? I would. I mean, I would love, there's a few Joshi figures that exist already that I would love to have. I know there's one of the indie makers who makes, like I do, the Hasbro style figures, made a Bull Nakano that's really nice. Someone made a pretty good who was it? Aja Kong. And there's a bunch of those I wouldn't mind having. There's the Alundra Blaze that WWE put out. I would get that in a heartbeat. I feel like, especially since they have her in the Alundra outfit, it's very, her time in Japan more than anything. Yeah, I'm a little surprised. They just had a toy fair just happen and Mania weekend just happened, and a bunch of the toy companies had big announcements, including the indie toy companies. Your Zombie Sailors, all the different Hasbro style makers, all had announcements of new figures. I was a little surprised. I feel like someone should have been reaching out to Japan, probably through Chigusa, to get Dump Matsumoto in their line. I feel like that's really obvious. Like, she's doing stuff right now, she's making shows. She just had the Netflix series. No reason to not do that. Maybe I'll reach out and see if I can get her signed. But yeah, there we go. That's lefty and righty both set there. Hold it by the elbow pad as best I can and hang it up to dry. All right. This flesh colored stuff, these acrylics do dry fairly quickly, which is really good. All right. Now this guy, I'm going to get a little sloppy around the edges, and then I'm going to go real clean on it when I do the hair, because the yellow is a deeper. I use this sort of king's gold for my hair color. It really reads as that very sort of the Hasbro color schemes that they had, and I think that's going to work really well. And I think it's going to cover over some of this fleshy color when I do it. So I feel pretty confident about that. All right, right now I just got to figure out how exactly I want to hold this guy. If you can't tell, I do want to draw a little attention to it. What I use, I hang this up when I dry it, because he only has inserts on this part, no pegs. And what I use to hang him up is I put 2 earplugs in there and let him expand. And then I can put that in a clamp and let it hang while he's drying. Not great for holding on to the rest of the time, though. So I got to figure out if I could put some pegs in his arms or something. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a whole lot for that. I could probably just hold him by his hair, I guess. I'm not painting the hair yet. I'm only doing the flesh-colored parts, so I guess that's what we'll do. Yeah, why not? All right, and with this one, like I said, I can get a little bit messy here. I can go a little crazy because it's a lot of area without a ton of detail. Move the old Instagram a little bit closer, get a slightly better view. Want to make sure anyone who wants to watch can see. But yeah, we're going to see what we can get done in a couple hours here, and then probably pick back up tomorrow. I may do multiple streams tomorrow. I might stream during the day and at night. I would prefer to get outside tomorrow, enjoy the nice weather. Oh man, I've been able to do cardio outside, you guys. The weather. I'm so happy. Not thrilled. You can probably hear it in my voice. I'm not thrilled at all the pollen in the air, but man, oh man, to be rid of the cold weather. Let's go. Absolutely thrilled. All right, we got pretty good coverage all down there. Pretty good. And like I said, I'm going to be a little bit loose on this layer. I don't mind if I get a little of this color onto the hair here and there, because I'm going to be going back over it with that hair color that's deeper. It should cover this color really easily. I hope Delmy watches some of these streams before she goes into painting her figures. I know when I made the original figures, there was a Perry and a Rip, and she helped Rip paint his figures. She did a lot of the work on that, and they came out looking pretty great. So she's a good hand to have around for that kind of thing. Just catching up on everything here. Good heavens, Mr. Man. Can't trust those dirt sheets. Yeah, I know. Delayed reaction. I was my mind was elsewhere. I was focusing on the work at hand. I can already tell this is going to be the most difficult part later, as there is a little gap between the beard and the chest, and getting in there is going to be difficult without smearing too much. But that's okay. It's an area people won't see much. At least I don't think so, anyway. What do I know? I don't know what people look at. Okay. That looks to be solid coverage on the main body there. All right, and now you got to get the face. Hit the mouth. Again, like I said, going to be a little bit messy here. It'll get taken care of when the next colors go on. It is possible I may go to the trouble of getting some slightly finer tip brushes. When I watch some of my toy making friends work, they have some incredibly fine tip brushes. When I watch folks like Kerfloss, when he's painting figures, he has really fine tip brushes. When I watch the folks that do the painting for there's this great maker, Funky McClunky, that made Captain EO figures in the style of the old Kenner's Star Wars figures. The people who do the painting on his, they use very fine tip brushes. It's kind of astounds me that they can even work with them. All right, so we're gonna hang this guy back up over there, let him think about what he's done. Let's see. With the torso, how much do you worry about getting paint in the sockets? That's a good question. I don't really worry that much about it. I find that yeah, a little bit really isn't going to bother anything, and once the joints have moved a bunch, all that's going to kind of break away and not. It's going to become a non-issue once it's assembled. That said, I also, I tend to not really get much in there. I work around it because I don't want to be wrong. Really, is what it comes down to. I don't want to get to that point and discover like, oh, geez, I shouldn't have got paint in there. So I don't go out of my way to avoid it, but I also, I'm I am cautious because like even painting this area here, um, that's an area that is going to be between two joints, and there's going to be friction and rubbing there. I don't think it matters. I think having the coverage so you don't see the plain plastic is really more important. And especially since these toys are really display items. These aren't. I don't think anyone's really breaking them out and smacking them around too much. These are collector items more than anything. You know, they're art toys. Nicobene says, "I'm not kidding when I say my old man goggles stepped up my stitching, painting game on the craft." Oh, that's true. I do have magnifying goggles. Um, I don't break them out that often. The first time I used them, I had a lot of trouble getting the distance that I needed to look at it right. So I haven't broken them out since then. I probably ought to. They were a very thoughtful Christmas gift from my in-laws. It's weirdly hypnotic to hear that 3D printer running behind me this whole time. I have this sort of very sort of superior feeling where I sort of feel like I'm just letting machines do my bidding for me. It's the same feeling I get when I start the dishwasher, knowing that one day in the robot revolution, I will pay for all those sins. Yeah, see, you can sort of see what I'm doing here, where I just kind of hit the edge. I'm not really getting anything down inside, but I think if I did, it probably wouldn't make that big a difference. The tolerances are tight, but I don't think a little paint in there is going to ruin anything, honestly. Just getting caught up on the old chat there. Had to pause and look over at it for a minute. All right, let's paint old Pear Bear's shoulders. When I'm done with all this, I'll be right back down here in the basement. I gotta get my workout in. You know, I've been doing my cardio outside every day, which is real nice, but the weights live where they live, and I got to get down here. It's chest and triceps today, which is always a fun workout, one where I get a really good pump. So I feel good about, it's an ego workout. It makes me feel good. When I used to lift with Brad Hollister years ago, it was always on chest and tricep day that he would make the joke. Sometimes I feel bad for my skin because I make my muscles get such a pump. I can feel my skin straining to keep them in. Oh, Hollister, he's a hoot. For those who don't know, I've known him since he was 15. Showed up to wrestling school at age 15, full parents' permission to be there and to train. But he needed a ride, and he was on my way, so I was his ride to wrestling practice for like 2 years when he and I were both brand new. All right, and I think we're getting right to where we can start doubling back to hit some that we didn't finish, or rather to start hitting second coats. And I can see from here that those legs are basically dry already from earlier in the stream. All right. It's messy, but that's first coats, they tend to be a little bit messy. All right. Hang this guy up, and we're going to double back on some of the earlier parts we worked on. Bring these legs back out and work on coat number 2 here. Yeah, let's just check. Oh yeah, bone dry. Love it. It's all coming together, you guys. Cody says, gotta love Big Bacon. Literally one of the oldest friends I have in pro wrestling. He and I, we're day ones. Me, him, Leary from Blitzkrieg, and Johnny Torres, who's an announcer basically everywhere, and we usually raid his streams at the end of these streams. I might still try to do that. Um, those guys are day one for me. We all started training together. Hollister debuted a few months after the three of us, me, Torres, and Leary. And yeah, ever since, watching him grow, from a dorky little kid who was in high school when I met him to a grown adult with kids and a life. He's got a child. That's crazy. Got a child and a wife, and they're lovely, lovely folks. But I've enjoyed watching him grow up. All right. We're getting a little bit better coverage with every pass here. I had considered starting with the flesh color in my airbrush to just get a nice smooth layer on everything. But I haven't had the airbrush out since before I left for Japan. So I knew it would need a lot of cleaning and maintenance, so I didn't have the time to get that together. So working with what we have. Looking forward to several days from now when these are just about done being painted and I can hit them with the semi-gloss clear coat. That moment when you get that clear coat on them is when they really start to look like a toy. Love it. Yeah, Bacon's crowd work is definitely great. He's a riot that way. It really didn't matter if he was a babyface or a heel. I found his dedication to his character, and part of that is that he just 100% believes in himself, and that's really important. People like to crap on Bret Hart for believing his own hype, which, like, sure, him and Hogan both sort of have that, like, believing their own hype thing going on. But, you know, if you don't believe in you, why would anyone else? It's one of the reasons I've tried to, as best I can, I try not to knock my own work or be too self-deprecating anymore. Because I realize if I don't believe in me, why would anyone else? Oh yeah, and you can see the difference between one leg and the other. That second coat is infinitely better than the first, and I think it's going to take 3. I think the third coat's going to be the one that finishes these off. I could try to go heavier with the paint and just call this good enough, but that's not going to look so great. All right, that's the two legs. All right. Now we got to start making our way through the arms again, starting with the right hands because those were the ones I did first, and they do seem pretty good and dry. So I think we can work with this. Hope everyone's enjoying their Monday. Everyone had a good weekend. One nice thing about Mania weekend, not a ton of shows go on most other places. So, like, I had the weekend off, a rare occurrence. Yeah, Mr. Man, I completely agree. I think the believe your own hype mentality, you have to have it when you reach the higher levels. I think there's probably never been a major company world champion who didn't believe that they deserved it. It's good to be humble. Don't be don't be a jerk. Really, that's really all that means. Is just you can believe in yourself and be nice about it, and not be a full of yourself jerk. There's a huge difference in confidence and just being bragging. Yeah, you can really see the difference between the hand and the upper arm, because right now I've painted the upper arm its second coat and it's really starting to get there on coverage. The hand is still a little iffy. So, it's funny. I've never had a problem with these paints being too thick for this work. Joey Nails actually asked me earlier if I ever thin out my acrylics, and I never have. But I don't know. This one, it might just be that it was a brand new jar. This one's been a little thick, and I'm not necessarily loving the way it lays down. I'm working around it with like some very light brush strokes, but I don't know. This might have been better off if it was watered down. Who knows? And that is one of the nice things about acrylics is they are water soluble. So if you make a terrible, terrible mistake and you get it all over your clothes or something, it washes out easy, washes off your skin and everything real easy, and you can thin it real easy. It's actually what I have to do when I use the same acrylics in my airbrush. I don't use airbrush paints. I use acrylics. I thin it down with a combination of water, rubbing alcohol because it evaporates more quickly, and just a couple of drops of. You can use like a Windex, but I use like wiper fluid. That works as a lubricator for the machinery inside of your airbrush, keeps it safe. All right, this is getting much better here. Finding that balance of confidence while staying grounded is a challenge while also battling insecurity. Boy, you're telling me. Whew, don't I know it? All right. And on to the next righty. I hope this is still entertaining. It's really just been me doing the same thing over and over, but we're making some good progress. I'm feeling really happy with how this is moving along. Let's get the hand first on this one. Okay, good. See, I struggle with that a lot with my photography. Yeah, I totally get that. It's with anything where you're creating and releasing work, especially visual work, I find, because often you show your work to people and you can see their reaction in the moment, and that is stressful, man. Um, with wrestling, with performance, it can often be a little bit harder in the moment to know how people react. When you get immediate feedback as a stand up, but it's also a little bit clouded by how you're feeling in the room. If it feels like you're doing really great, you might think you are. I knew comics who told me, "Oh, I went out there and I killed," and I watched their set and they did not. And I definitely had nights where I thought, the crowd wasn't into anything I did, only to have everyone say, like, "You had the best set of the whole night." The same thing can absolutely happen with wrestling. There can be times when, especially with like a smaller crowd, it can be tough to gauge. Like, are they into it? What are they doing? Big crowds, they get loud easy. If you got a big crowd. Let's see, I miss any areas here? We're looking pretty good on this. All right. Hang that guy back up. See, Cody says, watched Stand and Deliver and Mania Night 1 on Saturday, then slept for 3 hours, woke up, watched the Clusterbuck, and then slept 3 more hours, spent Sunday afternoon with the family. Wow, that's a busy weekend, Cody. See, Bobby just suddenly says, well, done watching Raw. I wonder what happened. See, Rye says, every time I sent out my photos, I'm waiting anxiously for feedback or any indication I did okay. When you see wrestlers sharing the photos, that's indication that you did okay. Because that means you got the pictures they wanted. You got them looking how they want to look. Joey Nail says, thanks for streaming, Perry. I was having a rough night. This is helping a lot. Hey, I'm glad. We talked a little bit about some toy making earlier. And I got to tell you, taking some time to sit down and goof off and make a thing always helps. Always helps. Yeah, right. I can tell you, I enjoy your photos a great deal. I can't speak to all the wrestlers because I don't know, but I know that I'm always happy to have them. And I was very glad you were there the night that I won the Grind Grand Championship because it meant that I had good pictures of it happening. Quessy is one of the one of the best frickin' dudes. Oh yeah, this one's got a nice fine tip. This is going to be very useful for certain things here. All right. Yeah, this brush I'm going to be coming back to. This is a good one. It's not the same as getting good feedback and hearing the words, but I can also say if the photography's not good, you don't get invited back places, especially not Grind. You know, they're real selective with that stuff. So you know they're liking it. So I can say confidently, I think you should be very proud of the photography that you do, the photo work you do. You know, you're providing a bunch of us lasting memory. You know, there's going to come a time when where wrestling is concerned, you know, all I'll have will be the photos and the videos of what I did, and maybe these piles of toys, you know, that I made for myself, or and you know, some graphics of merch and those kinds of things. That's going to be all I have one day. And that same goes for the younger guys, you know, the Quessies and the A games. Someday, you know, no matter what heights they reach, you know, someday all they're going to have of it is the old pictures and stuff. And I do hope that those kids keep track of that stuff, you know, save their downloads, back things up, because I got a few years where I did not back my stuff up great, did not keep everything. And yeah, there's a big chunk of my time in California where I know there were pictures taken. I just don't have them. I do have videos of every match, though. I was always very careful about that. That if a company couldn't be trusted to film and release their stuff, I always had my phone in someone's hand for them to film. Or before I had a smartphone, my handy cam would be passed off to someone because I'm an old man. I can remember when people had purpose-built cameras. All right. Yeah, we're moving along. This is looking good. I can't wait to do some of the work with some of the Ninja Turtle toys and things doing this kind of stuff, because as I'm starting to see the details come through on here, it really reminds me of that same thing. Oh, see, Mark Sterling had joined the Instagram live. I wonder if he's still watching. I was just listening to the Major Wrestling Figure podcast earlier. Listen to them talk about some upcoming releases. Yeah, yeah, I thought MySpace would be accessible forever too, and there's definitely some stuff that was on there that I lost. That's a good point. I did see Mark's AEW figure announced. Very cool. That was really exciting. All right. That coat's looking good. We got one last arm to get a second coat on here, and then we're going to move back onto the torsos, which are drying nice and quick. I can see them from here. That is, again, I can't stress enough, one of the really nice things about using these cheap acrylics is they dry fast. You get a coat on, you run through a few pieces, you're ready to go on the next coat. All right, that's a bummer. Oh, I hate that. See, Bobby Gilbert says, I need a Johnny Torres figure, a ZPB figure, and a PVV figure. Johnny Torres and I talked about the idea of him having a figure, and if it would be like a current day Johnny Torres, or if it would be Johnny Torres back when he was actively wrestling, like what would that be? And ultimately, we never settled on an answer. But there's a chance he'll have a figure at some point. There we go. I have these massive tongue depressors. I'm out of popsicle sticks, so I have these massive tongue depressors, and I just snap them in half when I need a little piece. I want to mix this paint up a little bit. It's been sitting out here in the cup for a while, so it's starting to dry and get a little thick, get a little unruly. So I'm gonna shake this up and see if we can get it smooth and working a little easier. There we go. You can see that that's real thick. It's holding its shape. I want that to definitely be a bit thinner. This goes to what Joey Nails was asking me about earlier about thinning the paint. And I am going to, but I'm only going to do it just like little bit by little bit, just by literally bringing some water over on a brush. I don't want to go too heavy on it. There, we'll see how that behaves now. Properly making a mess, mixing the paint on the brush. That's okay. I'm gonna set that in the water for a sec because I do think I wanna thin this out a bit, but I'm gonna use some clean water while I do it. I actually think I have some little pipettes over here somewhere. Yep. Oh, maybe they went away. Huh. Oh, that's okay. I got another way to do it here. Actually asked him if I asked you to make a Johnny Torres figure, would he be okay with it? And he said, of course. I can't imagine he would be upset at having a Johnny Torres figure made. All right. There we go. And I'm just going to, only little bits, I'm mixing some water in here. I'm thinning these paints down a little because they are getting a little thick and chunky. I want, now that we're getting closer to a final layer on this color, I want it to be nice and smooth. Yeah, this is good. We're looking at a consistency a little bit thicker than like milk. That's really workable. Okay, I think that's looking good. Yeah, that's going to behave. That's going to behave how we want. Clean the old brush off here. I'm gonna try to end this stream somewhere right around the 2 hour mark because I desperately need to get my workout in tonight, and time is fighting me right now. All right, here we go. Let's see how that's going to behave on the brush. Ooh, yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think we're going to have some good luck with that. Yeah. Leads to some thin coverage, but that's okay. I don't want the paint adding a lot of texture to the figure. Boy, turns out Joey Nails asking me about thinning out this paint got me thinking about it, and lo and behold, I think it's making a difference here. So Joey Nails, that's your answer. You can thin it out, but only a little bit. It doesn't take a lot, but it's given me a much nicer coverage, especially on a second coat. On a first coat, I think it might be detrimental, but who knows? I did have primer on here, so it might have just stuck just fine. It's kind of hard to say. Let's see here. Bobby says it's actually Torres's fault that I want a Chigusa figure. Really? Why is that? What did Torres say to bring that to mind? I think he would have wanted one anyway. But yeah, tell me more. I'm interested in that story. I do know Johnny Torres is an encyclopedia of wrestling. It's one of the things that makes him a fantastic voice, a fantastic commentator, a great broadcaster. He has a deep-rooted knowledge of actually a great many things. Wrestling, obviously, being an important factor in that, but boy, you get him talking about movies, pop culture, baseball, video games, technology. He's a smart guy. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. I do think they'll all take about one more coat to get the coverage that I really want on this flesh color, but we are doing very light colors on a very dark primer, so that's going to happen sometimes. All right, so I'm going to get this guy hung up to dry, and we will start back in on these torsos. See, he gave me a tag team idea called Orange Crush, and it's Orange Cassidy and Chigusa. That's pretty great. All right. First torso head combo. We'll take this on down and see what we can do here with our freshly thinned out paint. I'm really hoping that that means that this is going to give me some good coverage here. Yeah, this is working really well. So if you're watching the stream and you don't live nearby, and you don't get out to the shows in our area, I would happily accept pre-order on these figures. You can get into the DMs on any social media at Perry Von Vicious. Also, if you're watching me pretty much anywhere, Instagram or over on Twitch, that means you have pretty much direct access to my link tree, which will also send you to places where you can get a hold of me if you want one of these. So tell Johnny about my ideas for your figure promotion. I think he mentioned that comes up sometimes. All right, Nicky Beans, take care. Glad you could hang out. I'm going to be wrapping this stream up pretty soon myself. I think we're going to get through 2 solid coats on these, and then we're going to call it a night as I prepare to head into my workout. It is weird to spend this much time looking incredibly closely at a tiny version of my own face. It's very surreal. All right, and that's coat number 2 on that piece. We're getting there. We're moving along. Every coat is an iteration a little bit closer. All right, and one last torso to get a second coat on here. I do miss the ease of the flesh-colored resin from the previous toys I had made. that meant this entire step, this whole stream, non-existent. I could have started on just details. But this is good. It gives me a little bit of time to look more closely at the models. You know, I can sort of think about the painting that lies ahead and have a game plan for it. Go. And a lot of the sort of brush strokes that I'm causing here, because I'm seeing them stick through from a previous coat, because again, the acrylic was pretty thick. A lot of that goes away once you apply the clear coat. Once that top layer is all nice and even from hitting it with a spray, a lot of the little paint lines, a lot of the little brush strokes all start to kind of fade off of the piece. So while I don't love seeing those now, I'm trying to remind myself that they will be handled later on in the process. They are not permanent. They are merely an artifact of the process. I am excited for when the first FDM print finishes. The first part that I'm printing of the giant version of this figure is this piece. It is the torso, currently being printed at at 1.5 or sorry 2.5 scale, back there on my FDM printer. All right, and that is coat number 2 on torso number 2. It's coming along real well. I'm happy with that. All right, let's hang him up. All right, and what time are we looking at? 1 hour 45. I think that is pretty good for a first day of. Actually, you know what? We're gonna do a third coat on the legs. They're already dry, and I've got this paint kind of thinned out a little, which I hadn't before. We're gonna see how coat number 3 stacks up here. Then we're gonna call it a stream. Okay, yeah, that's good coverage. It's looking nice. It might only take this third coat, but if it takes more than that, that's okay. I got more days to work on this and more figures to get through, so it's something to which I've committed the time already. I don't feel bad about it. You know, I know I've said it on stream before, but one of the reasons I was so quick to say, yeah, I'm going to start 3D printing my own figures is because once I learned how to make my own toys, I knew I'd have been doing it anyway. I'd have been doing this just for fun, just for me. Whether it was wrestling figures or turtle figures or monster truck toy replicas, I would have been doing it just for me. So the fact that I can make these, paint them, get paid for them, stream it and hang out with all of you, all the better. And then other people have the piece and they get to take it home and say, yeah, Perry made that. Which is pretty cool. All right. Yeah, and I think you can see a difference in coverage between 3 coats and 2. 3 coats versus 2. All right, and we'll do this one last set of legs, and then we'll call it a stream, and I'll move on to my workout. If I don't work out, I won't look like the action figure anymore because I sculpted this figure to look jacked. Got to keep up my appearances, you guys. But yeah, thank you all for hanging out tonight on a Monday Night Perry. The first Monday Night Perry after Raw. Or after Mania. That's the Raw after Mania. That's how I'm mixing those up there. And yeah, I'll throw out some plugs now while I'm finishing this last coat here. If you are not currently subscribed to me on YouTube, go do that. That helps me a lot. And I got all kinds of videos over there. All these live streams end up over there. But I also upload my vlogs there. I got a new vlog coming out next weekend. Shows my travels through the world of wrestling, my travels to go see monster trucks, my trips out to different concerts, usually alongside the one and only Johnny Torres. The newest one coming out shows myself, Sound Guy Coral, and Troy Nelson doing some candlepin bowling out in Amesbury, Mass. Along with, of course, a few shows that happened. It covers the most recent Blitzkrieg, where there's some crazy stuff going on there, where the Delta House is trying to get me to join their little club. I don't know. They're good kids, but I don't know that I'm a fit with a couple of frat boys. Maybe I could be a good influence on them. Who knows? That's right. Coral name drop. All right. So all those pieces are looking pretty good, and we are going to call that a stream. Thank you all for hanging out so much. I agree. Those boys need some guidance. Thank you all for hanging out, and I will be back again tomorrow, possibly during the day, but definitely tomorrow night at 9 o'clock, streaming again here in the workshop because I got a lot more to do. There's more painting that needs to be done on these, both for the main coverage and for all the little details. So we're going to have to get to all of that. But for now, I'm taking off. I got a workout to hit. Thank you all for hanging out, and I will see you all again soon.